Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. I'm on with my second tutorial for Pandahall Selected to use the awesome products that they sent to me. All the links will be down below to the individual products that I'm using and also to Pandahall's site. And don't forget to use the code listed to get 10% off of your first order. So for my first project here, I'm just cutting this piece of scrap paper to use as a mask and to create a shape with my distress oxides for a background. Now I'm just using white cardstock for this, and I'm mainly going to use that middle section, but I'm keeping the cardstock a bit longer so that I can get some of the ink off my blending brush on the edges before I try and blend it in the middle there. So I've created a sort of hill there with my mask. And now I'll be going and doing the sky. Once I've finished doing the background there, I just get a bit of water and drip it on. Put that to the side to dry, and then I'll start on my second background. So I'm using a few different colours here, some greenish brown and brown, and doing the same type of background with the hill and the sky. So I've got a lot of stamps to use for this tutorial. So I want to try a few different things here. Again, just splattering some water on top. So these are the products I have left out of my unboxing. I have those Vintage Girl dies and stamps, and then I have a set of 7 stamps here that I want to use. And they're all gorgeous. But for this project, I want those fairy stamps. And then a couple of these other sort of botanical ones. I've dragged out my stamping platform, which I never use. I've tried it once or twice, didn't get a very good print, and then put it away. So I'm determined to get using it this time. So I'm just pulling out different stamps from the 3 sets to see what I think might make a nice picture with my fairies. So I've got the little magnets holding down my background piece. And I've also got a piece of paper behind that so that if I stamp off of my background, it won't mess up my platform there. So I'm using archival ink for this. And the stamping platform allows me to go over the same stamp a number of times too. As they're sort of silhouettes, I can get a nice dark stamp there, a nice solid stamp. So one of the fairies seems to fit on this swing quite nicely sitting down, which is really cool. So I thought I would put her there. And they are stamping beautifully. And I thought it was my stamping platform that was the problem, but it wasn't. It must have been some of the stamps I was trying to use. If you put enough pressure over the entirety of the stamp, it stamps really well. So it was so handy to be able to use it like this. So another fairy sits nicely on top of the mushroom. So I'll put some music on and continue to stamp away. my next project today, I have this Coles shopping bag, one of your paper bags, and I've just cut the panels out. And I want to do some stamping on those. So I've got some scrap paper underneath for if I want to stamp off the edges so I don't mess up my mat. And I've got some scrap cardstock and printer paper there to do my cataloguing on of my stamps, which I want to continue to do every time I get new stamp sets. So I'm just doing some random prints of a lot of the stamps. I'm starting with the bigger ones out of the set. Just doing a number of them on there, and then I move down to the smaller ones bit by bit to fill in the little gaps. So I usually trial them out on my scrap paper to make sure that they're inking up nicely, and then I do them up for my catalogue on my scraps, and then I put them on my project. So now that I've finished filling up my paper with stamps, I want to make a type of bag or pocket out of them to put in my journals. So I'm just folding it over, just cutting off the edges that are a bit long. And then I cut these bottom bits, so I've got to fold up there in the middle to make it sort of look like a bag on the outside. Then I cut some angles in the top there. That just gives me a bit of a sort of flap there that makes it easier to insert tags and that. And I fold down one piece. I noticed when I fold that down, you can see the Coles print on the other side. So for this bag in particular, I cut a bit of extra bag out to cover that over with. Then I just stick down the side pieces together and then that bottom little flap, and that creates a really lovely little bag or pocket to use. So here I am just covering over the red that we can see with an extra bit of bag. I didn't have to do that for my other bags, so they were plainer on the inside. A really simple pocket there. So I end up doing that with my other stamp sets. So I had the wedding one left over and I thought it would be nice to do that on a white bag. So I found a white bag in my stash. I've just cut the little bottom gusset bit off that I'll use for another project another time. And I'm going to make a side pocket with what's left over here. Again, I'm just cutting off some of the bottom so that we've got a flap that we can fold over. And I decide to sort of tuck that in over the gussets on the inside there, which makes it nice and neat. And I'll stick that down. And then I'll stick the top bit there down to it as well, and that closes our little bag off and makes our little side pocket. So we'd stick that on a page. Now I want to stamp that with the wedding stamps. Again, finding some scraps to do my cataloguing. So usually I stamp these quite randomly, but with this one, because it's a smaller space, I sort of planned a bit more which stamps to put on there. So I decided to make a tag with some of the leftover bits of the bag to slip into one of the bags or pockets that I made. I used my hole reinforcer punch there to punch out some reinforcements for my tag. And I'm using one of the pieces of paper that I cut out previously, just folding it over so it's nice and sturdy. I'm finding which set I want to stamp some words onto the tag with to match in with the pocket nicely that I want to put it in. Just cutting it down with my trimmer so it's nice and even. Cut the little top corners off to make it a tag shape. I use my crocodile to put the hole in it, and then glue down the reinforcers that I punched. And I think it looks really cool. I want to make a pile of these. What a great way to use those bags up. And it looks nice and vintage. So I'd use those tags heaps. So then I drag out some of the words from the stamp set. I think it's the cup of tea one. Now the last project that I'm getting on with is using the Vintage Girl stamp set and dies there. So I've gone ahead and I've stamped them out, and they stamped beautifully. First pop, just gorgeous. And so now I'm cutting them out with the die shapes. Now I did find this a bit fiddly. It was hard for me to line them up properly to begin with. I need a bit of practice at that. The smaller shapes cut out very well. They were a lot easier to line up. So I did end up having to re-stamp one or two and try it again. But I just love the way these look and the way they stamp. They are so much fun. So I ended up colouring them in with some alcohol markers that I have here. Managed to find one that was like skin colour, which is amazing. I'm always terrified at trying to colour in the skin because I never have the right colours and that, so it was really good to find a marker that I have now that does that quite nicely. So I've got the words and I've just coloured them over with a bit of marker as well, and I'm just using the little label die to cut them out for my project. And then there's the little bags and accessories that come in the stamp and die kit as well, which are really cute. So here I'm recutting one of the plain stamped images to because of the one that I did, I didn't get the die on right, and I probably cut off half a leg or something. So I thought I would stamp another one and colour it in. So these are the brush markers that I have. I got these second hand, and I hadn't used them before, so I'm glad I looked and pulled them out for this project because they were perfect. decide to give her little blue socks. So I went over a couple of the solid black bits with a black marker as well, just because I didn't stamp it as solid as I would have liked. And then I've got my skin toned marker there. I haven't coloured in for ages. Then I did trim off just a little bit of the border on a few of the dolls because I'd cut them a little unevenly and there was a bit too much white around there. So I have these index cards that I've had sitting around for ages. I have a pile of them and they're great little journaling spots. So I decided I would put my little vintage girls on them. Then I raided my scarcely used washi tape collection to get some of these El Cheapo washi tapes and use them. They go perfectly with these girls as well, so it was great use for them. I've added a bit of stick glue to them to ensure that they stay down. And I'm just wrapping it around the entirety of the card there, so you see it on the front and the back. And just trim the overhang off. So now it's time to stick down all my die cut pieces. Such a fun way to jazz up these index cards to use as journal spots. I'm just sticking all the bits down with my Helmar's tacky glue there. And I just love the way they look. Well, that was a bit of fun. So it's time to recap what we've done for this video for Pandahall Selected. So I used mainly these two stamp sets. And these came from the set of, I think it was 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 7 set of stamps. And of course, all the products that I've used today will be linked below from Pandahall. So these beautiful fairies and mushrooms. And then this one, I used the trees mainly and the seat and that. And we made these. So a nice oxide, distress oxide background with our stamped images on the top. Love the way they turned out. Had a few little glitches, like there's a bit of a line there from when I did my oxiding background. And then I think I double stamped this fairy so she's slightly blurry because my stamp platform, I moved the paper just a tiny bit when I went to re-stamp her. But otherwise, I absolutely love these. So I've just backed them onto some black cardstock. And I'll probably end up using them as journal cards or pockets in a journal. They'd make beautiful cards as well, but I don't tend to make a lot of cards, so I'll probably keep these for future journals. So they were heaps of fun to make. And then we grabbed our shopping bag and made some little bags, and we stamped them with the rest of that stamp set. So these travel ones, vintage ones, tea time ones, wedding, and this one which is spring themed. So I used those. And there's my spring themed one. So you can just slip things in there, stick it. You can just slip it into a pocket as is, or you can stick it down to your page and use it as a pocket. If you open them up a lot, you can see the red writing that was on the Coles bag initially. But a great way to recycle these shopping bags. We're getting a lot of them these days with our deliveries, so I'll probably be using them a lot more in the future. And the stamps look so nice on there. Then this is the travel one. Bit wrinkly, but paper bags do get a bit wrinkly. I kind of like that look. And I just fold this bit down sometimes and cut it a bit shorter than the back, so it's easy to slip things in and out. That's that one. Then this one, which is the vintage theme. You could, of course, ink around these as well. I haven't done yet. I might in the future. A bit of black ink would look nice. Then we did this white paper bag I thought would go better with the wedding theme. And it's going to be a side tuck, so you'll be able to put it on a page, leave it unstuck up the top so you can tuck a tag behind, and then you can also slip something into the pocket there. The only issue is right near the end of I did all the nice stamping and that, and then I put it down, and when I went to pick it up again, I had put it in the ink. It's always something. But I still love the way that turned out. And then this is the other paper bag, and I actually made a tag with the paper bag as well, and that turned out real nice and vintage looking. So I think I'm going to make heaps more of those. It's just got the words on the bottom there that I stamped. And that just slips into the pocket. So that's the way I'd be using these. And that's the tea time set of stamps. So they turned out really cool. And then the last thing was a really simple, a simple project in the fact that it's using these index cards, but it wasn't very simple to line up the dolls in the dies. I think I need a bit of practice at that. So I did trim some of the edges where there was extra sort of white space, and I did re-stamp a doll. Yeah, they were a little difficult to line up. The little bits are a lot easier to line up. I think I just need a bit of practice with that. But I coloured the dolls in with alcohol markers and then used a bit of my washi tape. And I love these, really simple, but you can pick up these little index cards from, I think I got some from Woolworths shopping centre here. They're quite cheap, and I have a stack of them, and I've been wanting to use them, and they make beautiful little journal cards. Could use it as a pocket too, but I'd use these as journal cards. So there's still room to journal on the front and the back there. So I think that's a really sweet way of doing those. And I just love these vintage girls. It's like the some of the other stamps I got. They just stamp so nicely. First pop, beautiful print. So they were a pleasure to use. And that, of course, was this kit with the corresponding dies as well. Of course, if you struggle with the dies, you can just fussy cut the pictures out anyway. But I thought they'd look kind of nice with the white border around them this time. So I think that is it. So they were, yeah, I've now done my 2 tutorial videos for Pandahall Selected. Massive thank you to them for the awesome products. I had so much fun with them. So there is the discount code down below for 10% off your first order if you do want to purchase anything. There's links to the individual products that I have showed you. There's also a link to their shop, so go and check it out. Take care, be good, and I will see you again soon. Bye.